Hi, I'm Melissa May, and this is Little Book of Confessions, a podcast about the stories we keep, the truths that shape us, and the messy, beautiful in between. What started as my journal turned into a space for raw conversations, anonymous confessions, and unfiltered reflections on life, work, identity, and everything we're not saying out loud. If you're figuring it out as you go, you're not alone. Let's confess, because some secrets deserve to be told. Trigger warning. Little Book of Confessions is a space for honest, unfiltered storytelling. Episodes may include discussions of trauma, mental health, abuse, sexual assault, addiction, self-harm, suicidal ideation, grief, identity struggles, and other sensitive or difficult subjects. Please take care while listening. Pause or skip episodes if you need to. Your well-being comes first. I just want to give a shout out to grandmas. Grandmas deserve a lot more credit and just like love. And I know we give them a lot, but they deserve a lot more. So I just want to say that my grandma Donna, she was amazing. And when I was little, for part of my life, I was born on the family property. We moved away, moved back for a few years. I talk about this in other places, but my mom got custody when I was 9. Anyways, I just wanted to share something that my grandmother saved and gave to me many years later. I was into my 30s after I hired the private investigator, found my dad, that side of the family, after it took a while for me to warm up and reconnect. But I just was at my grandma's house. She had moved from Ohio to Florida. And I remember one night we're sitting there and she's, "Oh, I have something. I think you should have it. I think this should belong to you." And she pulls out this, it's like one of those old file folder boxes, like where files, those manila folders used to come in. She pulls that out and she had maybe forgotten about it, but she's, "I think this should belong to you." So inside the box was a mix of things, stuff from my dad, from my mom. There was like letters, there was artwork, and there was all these cards that I had given like my dad over the years. There was one thing in there that was old report card of mine, but the most important thing that I found in there, I don't know the most important, but I guess the most important to me was this Mead notebook, this pink Mead notebook. And if you remember Mead in the 80s, it was like our lifeline. Like that's all we used. So I'm going to hold it up. If you want to see what it looks like, feel free to go to my YouTube. I'll also be doing a series on TikTok where I'm going to share what's in this notebook. In this notebook, honestly, I must have been, I don't know, 5 to 7 to 8 when I kept this. It's copyrighted 1985, so it has to be somewhere in those years. But it says on the front, it says Melissa May, and it says poem book only, and poem spelled Pome. It's got a Lisa Frank sticker on it. You can see where I took an eraser like on the pink and try to make stars from it. Do you remember doing that when you were a kid? Like you would take erasers and make decorations? Anyways, in this book it's just jam-packed. In this notebook, it's jam-packed with all of these poems that I guess I printed out on some very antiquated, like whatever it used to be called, printers. The dot matrix, what was it called? I can't remember. But I would cut them out and I would paste them in here. Some of them I drew pictures to go alongside it. And I guess I just like when I saw this, I was like in my 30s and it did something for me. Because I haven't been close with my parents or hadn't been, and I never had anybody to tell me stories like who was I like as a little kid, or what did I do? What was I interested in? And like, I always knew that I loved writing. Obviously, I kept journals over the years, and it's always been something really close to my heart. But just seeing that I did this as a little kid, it just talked to me. It reinforced something in me. It just touched my spirit. So I am grateful that my grandma kept it. And it's almost like I have this other, I know it's me, but it's like I have this other relative, this other spirit, this other thing that's existing in my life that's just telling me stories of who I was. And it's just really special to me. I don't know if other people out there, if you've ever kept anything from when you were a little kid. And I think the other thing that really touched me about this is when I was 9 and we were fleeing from location to location, I lost a lot of my stuff. It flew out of a cargo container that was on top of my dad's car, and I lost almost everything. I have a couple things that were in my backpack that I still have to this day, and I'll share those later too. But I didn't really have a lot from my childhood. I have very few pictures, very few any type of just proof of my existence when I was little. So being able to have this has meant a lot to me. And I'm just excited to read what I'm actually going to do. And I'm excited for this is I'm going to do fireside poem readings and I'll take us all back. And I'm just going to be curious to know if you remember any of these poems or what it means to you now too. I was reading through some of them and even though they were like kids poems, they hit deep. And I'm excited to explore this. I think the other thing that I'm thinking about too is just the dreams that we have as kids. So we should not let that go. Like I think it's important to be able to reflect back on who we were because I think we don't need to lose that in our adulthood. I enjoy that I have these child childhood dreams of being a writer, of appreciating poetry, and that I've been able to carry that on into my adult life. One question people ask me, and I just wanted to just work this in here too, because I did write my first book. It's called The Girl Who Wasn't Me, and I did publish under Persephone Gray. But people ask me sometimes, like, how did you write this? What do you do to bring up these memories, or how do you remember things vividly? And I think what's interesting about my experience is there are some things I remember so vividly from my childhood. Like I remember what it was like to play in the fields in the house in Ohio. I remember the honeysuckle. I remember having a horse and catching, we call it crayfish. Some people say crawfish if you're from the South. And the creeks, they're the creeks. I remember like certain things, but there are huge blocks that I don't remember. And I know that, again, that's like when you had a traumatic childhood, sometimes you block things out, even if it's a good memory. And so having stuff like this, having my poem book has helped me ground and just like reading through and just tapping back into the sense memories has helped me just like think of other memories that I had too. So when I was writing my book, I would break it apart and think about, okay, here's one memory. Let me write about this. Here's another memory. Let me write about this. I never try to make it linear, I guess linear. I just tried to grasp onto anything that I could remember or build off of. So anyways, having this book really helped me, my poem book helped me with my book to be able to loop around or connect the dots or thread the needle, whatever the expression is. I'm terrible at expressions of understanding my whole self and being able to reflect back that I was always a curious kid and just like some of the poems in here too. It's really interesting. There are certain themes here and maybe I'll flesh that out a bit later, but I'm just excited to read and share these because it reflects how I was feeling, what I was thinking at the time, the things that really resonated with me. And I actually wrote when I was younger too. That year when I was not, I wrote something, a short story when I was 9, and then another one when I was, I think maybe 12. So I have those both, and they're like the covers are laminated, which is super cute. And the stories are intense. I'll be honest, it's pretty intense reading them back and just showing for me, I guess it just shows that kids really do understand what's happening. They might craft their stories in a different way, like in the way that they're comprehending them, but it really has stuck with me over the years. I don't know if you have stuff like this too. Do you have stories that you wrote when you were a kid, poems that you collected, memories that you wrote down, little journals? It's interesting to look back at who you are because I feel like through the progression of time, Yes, I've definitely changed, but I've also stayed the same, and that feels good for some reason. That feels really good, and I just am excited to share this with you. So, I'll hold it up again. I'll describe it again. My pink Mead notebook, my poem notebook. I'm very excited to read you little poems by the fireside soon. Thank you for listening to Little Book of Confessions. If something in this episode stirred something in you, good. That's what we're here for. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at melissamay.me. Until next time, keep writing your truth, and remember, some secrets deserve to be told.